Hello, and welcome back to Module 4, Task-Based Instruction, What and Why. In the first lecture of this module, we have talked about the definition of task-based instruction and the concept of a task. In this lecture, we are going to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of TBI. Like any method or approach, TBI has both advantages and disadvantages. First of all, let's have a look at the advantages of task-based instruction. Task-based instruction offers a lot of advantages as it is communication-based and allows the learners to transfer previously acquired knowledge to new communicative contexts. It encourages the learner to emerge as a language user. It intends to engage the language learner in a meaning-focused language usage. According to Giska noted, the advantages of this approach are dealing with real-life communication before language analysis. TBI provides relevant and interesting topics to students. It is learner-centered and meets students' needs, giving them opportunity to use all possible language resources in authentic communicative situations, encouraging learners' autonomy. Due to this, students can analyze what they know, do not know, or partially know, and need to improve. They are encouraged to investigate the language. Just, students take responsibility for their progress in language learning. Genter 2015 summarizes a list of strong points of TBI as follows. Number 1. Task-based learning helps learners to interact spontaneously. Learners are free to use whatever vocabulary and grammar they know. For instance, a role play requires a learner to use language freely. It gives learners a chance to try out whatever language they already know, and it also gives learners a chance to notice and benefit from others' expressions, and thereby builds their level of confidence gradually. The cognitive competence as well as the communicative competence of the learners is developed as they perform a task. Learners' attention is drawn towards problem solving instead of focusing on isolated language structures. It encourages the learners to be more ambitious. Number 2. TBI provides automaticity. Automaticity for language learning is defined as a more efficient, more accurate, and more stable performance. It is also argued that automaticity leads to near-native performance. Research in the fields of cognitive psychology and second language acquisition suggests that automaticity is achieved by using language rules in a creative manner in an authentic communication situation. Task-based language learning paves way for automaticity. Cognitive theories of language suggest that practicing in real-life situations is helpful in achieving automaticity of linguistic knowledge. Number 3. It also provides essential conditions for language learning. Language learning does not happen without motivation, exposure, and opportunities to use the language. Task-based language learning encourages learners to use language purposefully and in cooperation. Learners get a chance to negotiate turns to speak and also try out various communication strategies. Task-based learning creates conditions which enhance language learning spontaneously. It prepares learners to use language in the real world. Number 4. In addition, TBI maximizes scope for communication. Task-based learning provides conditions that allows learners to assimilate what they notice and understand while performing the task. By participating in the task, learners not only acquire new language items, but also make use of the language they have acquired recently. Tasks allow learners to acquire and assimilate language items that they readily notice and understand. It allows the learners to transfer their previously acquired knowledge creatively to new contexts of communication. It engages learners in purposeful communication and gives chances to learners to try out various communication strategies and equips the learners with language for public use. Number 5. It creates chances for experiential learning. Experiential learning is said to form an important conceptual basis for task-based language teaching. The learner's immediate personal experience is taken as a starting point in this approach. It is argued that intellectual growth occurs as learners take part and reflect on the sequences of the task. The active involvement is considered central to this approach, and therefore, the approach is learner-centered. It is in contrast with the transmission approach of education, in which the learner acquires knowledge passively from the teacher. According to Research 2006, another strength of task-based instruction, which is the reason why teachers like task-based instruction, is that it can, in theory, be applied in a number of different ways in language teaching. TBI can serve as a sole framework for course planning and delivery. This appears to be the strategy proposed by Willis. Such an approach was used in a program described by Prabhu 1987, in which a grammar-based curriculum was replaced by a task-based one in a state school system, albeit only for a short period. Also, it can be the one component of a course. A task strand can also serve as one component of a course, where it could seek to develop general communication skills. This is the approach described by Belga and Hunt, 2002, in their study of a 12-week course for second-year Japanese university students. The task strand was based on a survey. Students designed a survey form, then collected data, analyzed it, and presented the results. In this case, task is being used in ways others would use the term project. At the same time, students were also involved in classroom work related to a direct approach to teaching speaking, receiving explicit instruction in some of the specific strategies, and micro skills required for conversation. TBI is also considered as a technique. Teachers who find the procedures outlined by Willis unrealistic and unmanageable over a long period would still use task work from time to time as one technique from their teaching repertoire. Despite numerous advantages, there are issues in implementing a task-based approach. Firstly, as put forward by Research 2006, there is little evidence that TBI works any more effectively than the PPP approach it seeks to replace. Criteria for selecting and sequencing tasks are also problematic, as is the problem of language accuracy. Task work may well serve to develop fluency at the expense of accuracy, as with some of the other activities suggested within a CLT framework. Content issues are also of secondary importance in task-based instruction, making it of little relevance to those concerned with content-based instruction or mainstreaming. The fact that TBI addresses classroom processes rather than learning outcomes is also an issue. In courses that have specific instructional outcomes to attain, for example, examination targets, and where specific language needs have to be addressed rather than the general communication skills targeted in task work, TBI may seem too vague as a methodology to be widely adopted. Ganter 2015 adds that, in addition, we can agree that it cannot be used with beginner learners successfully because they do not have many language resources to fulfill the task. Especially in speaking tasks like role plays or describing the differences, learners may find it challenging to continue the conversation. They may not understand what the task demands, and they may find it hard to make themselves understood while taking part in the task. Ultimately, the learner might be demotivated to perform the task and may even lose confidence in himself or herself. In this lecture, we have talked about the advantages and disadvantages of task-based instruction. Have you got all necessary information? For more information and practice, go back to read or go to discuss. Thank you very much for your attention.